Hello, welcome to another episode of Jiu Jitsu Therapy with Chris Mize. We're here on this wonderful Sunday night. We've got some beautiful ladies in here tonight. It's definitely making things better than what we usually have around here with the guys in. So I appreciate some of the ladies that train with us coming in and talking with us tonight. We definitely needed this to happen. So here tonight, we've got Laura. Laura, one of our blue belts out at Heroes, and we've got Caitlin, another one of our blue belts. And Caitlin, if you listen to Coach Chris's furlough podcast, Caitlin has been a guest on his show before, so she may sound familiar if you listen to Coach Chris's podcast. And speaking of Coach Chris, his wonderful wife Amber is actually running the board tonight. So I am definitely a minority in here, and so definitely there's good energy in the room. So thank you, Amber, for running the board. Yeah, they kind of decided it would be nice. Coach Chris can talk a lot sometimes, he said, so he wanted to make sure to not interrupt the ladies when they were talking, so he didn't want to be. So I'm just going to try to be quiet as much as possible, too. But thank y'all for coming in tonight. Like I said, we've had some interest. I've had some people ask and said, hey, it sounds like a boys club thing because all you have is the guys in and stuff. So it's nice to have you in and like I said, we have different, you guys have trained, I know Laura and Caitlin have, they've been at it for a while, and then, Amber, we'll let you talk about your experiences of what you've done. So you trained a long time, but you've just kind of come back to jiu-jitsu.
Not really. I've kind of played with, some things here and there, but I've not had any sort of formal training until now.
Well, you're married to Chris Bowen, so that carries a certain element to it in itself.
It does. I've never been afraid of anything with him.
But yeah. So, like I said, we've got several things, but we've got some questions we kind of want to just kind of ask everybody, and everybody just kind of chime in, and we'll see where it leads us. Amber, we were just discussing before we came on the air, and we were saying sometimes going down those rabbit holes are the best content stuff, and it makes it a lot more fun. So we'll see where the Lord leads us tonight. But so guys, we can just kind of go around and just see. So why did each one of you decide to start training jiu-jitsu? I mean, I know it's a more popular thing now, and it's become more popular in the last year or two. But like you guys started before the rush kind of hit, really. And so Laura, why don't you start out and kind of give me your perspective on it?
Well, I was actually coming off of a really bad injury. I'd broken my foot in like 6 different places.
That qualifies as a bad injury.
It does. It does, and I had kind of been deterred from running as a result of it, and I started working for another guest on your show, Michael McGrath, and he recommended that I try jiu-jitsu, that I get in touch with you, and he put me in touch with you and Renee, and the rest is kind of history. And I'm a graduate of UAB, and there had been some attacks there, like series of attacks and things like that, parking decks, and some of it was a safety concern, and then some of it was just a desire to really get into pretty good shape. And I don't know, here we are, February 2nd, that's the start of year 4 for me at
awesome.
Heroes. So it really, the rest is history. I was hooked.
Well, I would say you're definitely part of the program. I mean, definitely. I mean, definitely a staple and part of the family. Caitlin, what about you?
I started because it was not a lot of women from what I was seeing, and it wasn't a lot of women that looked like me. So I wanted to be that woman in there to do it and show other women that looks like me, like, hey, come on in, because we can do it too. Everybody can. It's not just for one group and one sex. So
you saying looking like you, or are you saying just a beautiful black proud woman? What are you saying?
Sure.
I mean, but you are that. I mean, you're awesome. So but I get what you're saying. Really, when both you guys started, there's more. There was not that many women training, and now it's becoming more popular. I think overall. Amber, what about you? You kind of, like I said, you've kind of dabbled for a while, but
Yeah, I've dabbled. I've, like I said, not been serious with anything. I've always kind of had a temper. I'm not above picking up a chair and hitting somebody with it. went with Chris, my husband, and he was teaching a ladies self-defense class, and I was just kind of there basically to be his dummy, you know, because he's teaching a group of women that...
We say assistant.
Oh, assistant. I'm sorry.
Or the uke.
The uke. The uke.
The uke.
But, you know, he's teaching a group of strange women, and it's, you know, close physical contact, so I was kind of there to be his assistant. And I've learned real quick that, you know, I could pick something up and hit you with it, but a big, strong man can pick you up and haul you off really easy. And that was just a thought that kind of, it was unsettling. So that's why.
It re-sparked your interest back in it.
Yeah.
Plus, you got, like I said, you had a good source to kind of help you navigate the first part of it, you know, too. I mean, Chris having as much understanding of the art as he does and everything. So we'll flip back to Laura now. So talking about everybody's kind of one of their first experiences that sticks out in your brain when you started training jiu-jitsu. We'll just kind of, Laura, we'll kind of start with you and we'll work back around again. And again, it could be, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. Just something that really just sticks out in your brain. But go ahead.
Oh man, I remember class 1 probably as vividly as I remember like my college graduation or any major event, any major event in my life. A lot of little fine details. Molly was actually there, and so I remember she worked with me the whole time, and she flower swept me. And Chris was also there, and my very first night he put me in a helicopter armbar.
Oh wow!
Because I guess I got a little not aggressive, but I guess I stood up, which was a huge mistake. And that was takeaway number 1 first night. Do not stand up with somebody that outranks you like that. And I was telling you a little bit before the show, one of my absolute favorite stories from day 1, and this was my very first experience from the second I walked in the gym, was Chad and Scott, 2 of our, Scott's purple belt and Chad's a blue belt with us at Heroes. And Scott was sitting on this little mini fridge, and I walked in, and Chad, who is a dentist by trade, was draining his cauliflower ear, and that was immediately to my left when I walked in the front door. And I thought,
that's a good first
I'm in the right place. This is great. But instantly just welcomed and hooked, and I mean, it was...
Here, can you hold this alcohol wipe for me?
Yeah, do you mind holding this? Yeah, sure. But no big deal. And I thought, man, I might get sprayed with blood in here.
We hand out goggles when you come in.
There you go. But
back in the old days, that's the way it was.
It was a great first class and a great experience. And it, like I said, from the very first second I walked in there, I felt like I was hooked, and I felt like, you know, this is a really good group of people and very welcomed and, you know, open and warm, and it was awesome. So, and here we are later, you know, part of the family.
Well, I will use this opportunity to say also, or I will ask before we move on to Caitlin, have either of you girls ever had a cauliflower ear? I just want to make sure that the ladies don't think, oh shit, we're gonna have ears that look like, you know, potatoes when we get done.
I got a little bit of one.
Oh damn! I shouldn't have asked. No, I'm just kidding. So what did you do to fix it, Caitlin?
Well, they just told me to put ice on it.
Oh, that's good. So it was more of an irritation thing. Yeah. That's good.
And it got a little puffy.
A little poofy. Yeah. Well, like I said, we don't have a ton of them.
No.
But it does happen every now and then. For me, in my experience, I don't know if we've ever talked about it before. For me, it's happened from getting hit more than just rolling and stuff. It's like you'll catch an elbow or something, you know, and that's when it's happened for me a couple of times. But, you know, being a nurse, we always just dragged it out.
I don't know. I use my head a lot.
Yeah. Chris Bowen taught me that, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fight like a giraffe, which means you put your head in their double and you move them.
Excellent.
Move them where you want to go, but...
Universal principles.
There you go.
That's right. All right, Caitlin, what about you?
When I first started, I felt silly. I felt like what I was doing was silly. And then as soon as everybody started hitting the mat as their break fall, and I was like, what the fuck? What are these people?
Oh, no, that's okay, Caitlin.
So I was like, what are
There's only about 17 10-year-olds that listen.
I'm sorry.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All under the age of 12.
No, I'm kidding. No, go ahead. The audience wants to hear our true selves. It's okay. If you know Michael, if you've ever listened to Michael's on here, he'll just
But anyway, so just be yourself, please.
Okay. Well, I was like, what the fuck are these idiots doing? But I didn't realize that it actually does help when you tuck your head and hit the mat as you're falling. Mm-hmm. But I almost quit like 3 times when I first started because I just felt out of place and felt silly. And I was like, I'm not doing anything right. I keep getting my ass beat. I'm not doing this. So... But I stuck with it.
Yeah, we're sure glad that you did. I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest obstacles that people have overall. You know, you have to. That's part of that ego thing. It's like, oh, I suck.
Yeah.
You know, hey, guess what? I still think I suck. You know, still even to this day, I have those moments. You have those days where it's like everything works, then you have those days that nothing works. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, so. But man, I'm glad that you stuck with it. You just had to overcome that, and that's such a big lesson in itself. Just being there, because like I said, everybody sucks. I mean, when you get started at it, it's so different. Yeah. Amber, what about you?
I got so caught up in the story, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. So, but you know, when you come in, I mean, you could probably say that, you know, like I said, you're married to Coach Chris Boland, so it's just like being almost a police officer. You're probably exposed to jiu-jitsu every day of your life in some way, shape, or form. So,
immersed in it.
Yeah. So I will say, because I'm incredibly socially awkward. I don't like new people, new places, new situations, and you know, so
she does like dogs.
I do all the time. But yeah, I mean, I don't think if it hadn't have been, you know, for, you know, being married to Chris that I would have ever done it, because, you know, again, new people, new places, new situations, and you do, you know, you feel
each other's grip.
Yeah, you feel, yeah, it's very close contact, and it's awkward, and you feel silly, but it helped because, you know, I had been in there, you know, several times. So I was familiar with, you know, the building. I knew several of the people that were already there training. And then, you know, of course, my biggest comfy blanket being Chris. I was as comfortable as I was going to get. But, yeah, I mean, it's still awkward coming in and, you know, whether it's other ladies, which, you know, we've recently acquired a new lady over there. And, most of the time I'm, you know, rolling with her, but I kind of like rolling with the guys too because she's so little, and I feel like I'm just gonna break her.
Little fragile,
you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I kind of like, you know, when I roll with Robbie or Chris, I'm not so scared to hurt them, so I just kind of get after it and to see if I was in that situation in real life. Would I be able to, you know, power my way out of it, so to speak? Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, you need all those things. This is kind of like when you think about it, when you think about like rolling, because there's 3 different types of people you roll with. People that have less experience than you, people who are kind of at your level, and then you have people that are a higher level than you. You gain something from all those experiences. You know, you can do stuff with the guys and girls that, you know, don't have as much experience. You can pull stuff off. You can't do it with the guys and gals that are at your level. And then you get to try your stuff and your survival and being able to say, is this going to work, you know, against a person with more experience. So it's same thing applies what you're saying. I remember one night, and Caitlin, I don't remember if you were there, that we will change the names to protect the innocent on this one. But we, and I'm going to get your opinion on this, and Laura will know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, she already knows. So we had wow, it was one time we had a good number of ladies training with us. And we'd never had that many ladies in a class at one time. And so we had somebody that was going to be getting their first stripe on their belt. And so, you know, normally when you say just grab somebody and roll, right? Well, I wanted the ladies to roll with each other for one roll. So I said, hey, pair it up. And, you know, I'll tell you, I think if you weren't like super sensitive to it, you would also know that sometimes I'll say, hey, Chad, roll with so-and-so. I'll tell people because I'm trying to make something happen. You know, it's like, there's a reason.
There's a reason why I want, I have reasons why I do stuff sometimes. I want people to get better at their defense, or I want them to have the opportunity to try to pass his guard or something if they're going to compete or something. So anyway, I suggested that. Well, after it was over with, we were standing in line, and I said, "Hey, did everybody have a good class?" And one of the ladies who, anyway, basically, she said, "No, I did not." And I said, "Okay, it was us." And awkward. I said, "Okay, well, we can talk about it after class." So anyway, she was mad because I had kind of imposed this. I wanted the ladies to roll with each other for one roll, and thought that I was being like
A sexist pig.
I think that's what she called me.
Or a chauvinistic pig, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It really hurt my feelings. But anyway, but again, the context of it,
devastated.
she had been training less than 3 weeks, and anyway, her husband also trained with us at that time, and she got all mad about all of it and everything else, and said that they were, they weren't going to really train anymore. I mean, it was just silly
That's
stuff.
some thin skin out there.
She didn't give him a chance, though.
Yeah, no.
It's like,
And anyway, and then the husband, she after she said that, then the husband calls me and said, "Hey, that's just for her. Don't worry about it. I'll be back tomorrow. That's okay." And so anyway, but I mean, you try to be receptive, but I think everybody just needs to understand as a coach's job, the whole thing is to try to provide stimulation that's going to make you grow as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I think sometimes you may not understand, especially not if somebody hadn't been in it very long, you may not understand why I want you to roll with this person or train with this person.
Right.
And it's like Robbie and Chris, both big guys. They're big guys, and sometimes they say, "I want you to work with." Well, I don't want to work with this big guy. Well, they're the most technical guys I got. They're with you so that they can shave the corners. Yeah.
And they can teach you and help you.
It's just like a private. When you get to train with one of those guys, it's like a private. I mean, it's like you're getting the benefit of like 30 years of knowledge to train with those guys. And so you shouldn't be like just or you can work with Johnny over here. It's his first week. You can work with him, and maybe he might fall on you and kill you.
He's probably gonna elbow you in the nose,
Right. Right.
or kick you in the face.
Right. But anyway, I was just bringing that up because it was something that really hurt my feelings about it. I'm always I try to be receptive to that, and it never even entered my mind that it was something that could have then been misconstrued as like.
I don't think it entered any single one of our minds either. Like I don't think Caitlin and I did not.
No. I was a little mad, but I mean, the way she handled it was way different than the way I would have, or
even if
the way I did handle
Yeah,
it.
because she was.
Because you explained yourself, and I'm like,
When I did it, I even explained it.
Yeah.
I even took but people don't hear a dissertation.
She was way out of line.
I mean, he had to like do this to her, like try to school her back in line so she didn't hide out. Like she was.
It's a bad day, so I apologize. That's why we don't use names. But anyway,
I remember your husband, Coach Bowen, grabbed my belt because I was mad. Like, and I just sat down next to him, and he said, "You're just seething. Like you're so angry."
It set off it was a bad energy in the class.
I really don't like somebody screaming at my coach like that. And I said, I think of Chris as like a second father.
It ended up being, there were a lot of other things you can imagine that was going on, but still it was like, you don't have to bring that into our world to where now it brings negative attention to you, too, so, but we always want it to be a positive experience when we train. But again, sorry if I went down that hole. I just think to me
That's a good story. That's a good
it's
one.
a heck
It
of a
needs
story
to be told,
to be.
We were all present for that one.
Right.
Amber excluded, but we were.
Yeah.
Caitlin and I were.
I wasn't sure if Caitlin was there. I remember Laura was there. Caitlin, because Laura was pissed off. So.
Just a little
saw
bit.
her reaction. I was like, "Girl, you need to calm down. Go sit down." I think she was embarrassed.
Well, after it was over with.
Yeah.
But anyway. Well, that's interesting times.
That's just how rolling is. You just talk to the person and get an understanding. The roll would go much better. If she had sat down with him like family, like the way I did with him after class, you see, I'm still here. I'm not embarrassed. We're still rolling now. Both of us have a good understanding of each other because we're family. You could have did that.
Communication goes a
Communication.
long way.
Not even, you don't even gotta be family. Just communicate with the next human, and you will be good.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is an A+ mentality. You get an A+. But we talk on this podcast so much. You know, communication goes a long way. You know, in everything we do.
You know, misunderstanding causes so much of the world's problems.
Yes.
And I know sometimes it's not easy to communicate your thoughts, but you know, jiu-jitsu's it's pretty easy to do that. You can talk about this. We always say, let somebody know if you've got injuries. Number one, and that's the thing. And if you're trying to avoid something, a lot of times people got to understand. You need to be able to say, hey, can you start can you start on side control top and let me work from the bottom? You know, people will always work with you because they can cultivate their game. You know, and just work from there. So you can always get stuff out of every roll. Doesn't matter who you're rolling with.
Very true.
As long as people aren't just crazy.
Yeah.
And to go back on the injury and everything, I had mentioned we have a new girl, which I'm brand spanking new myself. I think she's maybe a week behind me. But she has an issue with her hip, and we all know it. We take that into consideration. My husband dealt with a jacked up neck for a long time, but because he was able to communicate and everybody in the jiu-jitsu world is very respectful, he was able to maintain his training, but just a little more cautiously. And so I wanted to go back because, Laura, you said you got started after a foot injury, a really nasty foot injury.
I did. I was actually, I was trail running. I was training for a half marathon, and I stepped. It had rained where I always train, and I run trails, and so I stepped off in a hole, and it just kind of gave way beneath me, and I rolled my ankle, landed on top of it, and I just heard it snap. Like, I mean, it was, and it sure enough, it chipped off in like 6 different places, and it was a really bad, up into my ankle, it was just a really nasty break, and I was off of my foot for the better part of a year, probably like 10 or 11 months. I was off of it completely. Wow. Muscles were completely atrophied. And Chris can tell you, when I first started, I limped in there. And I remember he noticed it. And a few other people did too, because I still walked with a really bad limp. But careful communication and then working, like, it really helped further rehabilitate my foot.
I was going to ask, and it may be a completely ignorant question, but...
No such thing.
Exactly. The only ignorant one is the one you didn't ask.
Knowing, and again, I just have a very small glimpse into jiu-jitsu, but I mean, really, every part of your body is important. But, there's so much with your feet, and it just, I don't know, why would jiu-jitsu, obviously it did work wonders, it was great for you, but why would that be, I just can't see that being something you would, I would recommend swimming.
Yeah, oddly enough, I was actually a year out from that injury, and so they told me when I went to PT, and I went to a fantastic sports medicine facility here in Birmingham, and that doctor actually she works in Medic Station and works, she also runs, what is it, the Ironman? Yeah, the Ironman in Hawaii, so she does that every year. So she's an Ironman contender every year. And so they actually recommended something supplemental after I gave it a year. And they said after a year, everything will be knit back together, and you might still have a limp, but you'll be it'll be stronger than it was before you broke it. And so that's true enough, but it's still, my hips were a little bit uneven, there were some long-term things that I just had to work through and get over. And jiu-jitsu, oddly enough, it really did help, just planting your feet and getting used to the movement. It gave me a lot of lateral and dorsal movement back in that foot, and I credit it a lot for doing that. But as a white belt, I can say that we don't work heel hooks and leg locks and foot locks and things like that. But if I was having some soreness or it was feeling tight, I could tell anybody, I'd be like, hey, can you be careful around my ankle?
Right.
And it was never an issue, not one time. But after 6 months to a year, I could tell a huge difference in the mobility and the usage in that foot. It was amazing. It was just as good as PT.
That mat is really, it can make, I have a lot of old foot injuries and stuff from doing stupid things with my feet in the past. So my feet are a lot sore very often. But that mat, the way it is, and we have a 2-inch Dolomer mat. Shout out to Dolomer. Anyway, so but it makes you're adjusting. It's almost like being on a balance board to a certain degree all the time. But you know, when you talk about working around your injuries, and I don't remember if we did anything really specifically to do it, but you know, you can just work off your back a lot. You know, we do a lot on the knees and things like that. But you know, Coach Eric, he tore like a hip flexor one time training, and he had to work. He couldn't put full guard on anybody for like a year. So he had to work half guard. So all he did was half guard stuff. So he was on his side the whole time, you know.
Even more of a beast than he already is.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, and he said, anyway, how he ended up hurting it, he was just being dumb. But anyway, and he'll tell you that. But still, you can, a lot of times you can work around stuff. If you're kickboxing, you couldn't. You're right. You know, that would be a thing. And I know you have a background in that, you know, doing some of that stuff too. But
Just a little dabbling.
dabbling, well, you know, dabble.
It's
It's
still
good.
more than the average person.
That's true. Well, guys, I tell you, we're gonna call this episode right now, but we're gonna do a part 2. So tune in next week for our next episode. Thank you, Laura and Caitlin and
Thank you,
Amber for Amber running the board, doing an excellent job there. And so again, tune in next week for part 2, guys. We got a lot more good questions. Until next time.